In this lesson, we'll be talking about Cursor's tab feature, which is a powerful autocomplete that can predict your next line of code or even multiple lines of code. And with this lesson, we'll assume you have some basic knowledge of HTML, CSS, Shopify's liquid code, and their theme architecture. And this will be a quick overview as we'll more often recommend using the chat and talking to your code versus using this tab feature. But we just wanted you to be aware of it so it's another tool in your toolbox of when you're working with Shopify development. Now, before we go into Cursor, we'll go search on the Shopify docs for the theme architecture documentation, and we'll copy this. Then we'll come back to Cursor and go into the Cursor settings. So you can click on the little gear icon there. On the Features tab, scroll down, and you'll add a new doc. So you'll paste that URL in. It'll ask you to give it a name, add the prefix, and the entry URL. And you can see I already have it added here. And let's go back to our main file so we can close out of the settings. And for this example, for showing the tab feature, we'll be creating a new section on the Shopify customizer. And the way we do is just simply look on the sidebar here under the sections. And I created a new file called 50-feature. And tab completion works similar to chat, where if you give it more context, it'll have more information on how to predict your next line of code. So when we want to give it more context within the file, we'll do this by adding a comment. And you can add a comment by pressing Command/, and then I'll simply dictate what I want. So for now, I'll just simply hide this. And I'll say, I want to have a 50-50 split section where there's an image on the left and content on the right. I also want to be able to edit the image and the content in Shopify Customizer. So with the tab feature, what will happen here, if I put my cursor to the end and I hit enter and enter again, you'll see it starts to predict the next line of code. And before I even do that, let's open up back to chat. And the reason why I added the Shopify theme architecture, we can simply reference that doc. So I'll say docs, then tag the Shopify architecture, and I'll say, what is the basic structure for a section that I can add to Shopify Customize? So I insert. And this will go through the best practices, and we'll have this here as reference. And you can see, like if I go back up and I place the cursor at the end of the comment and you hit tab, it'll generate the schema. Then if I hit enter again, tab, it'll want to create the style sheet section, hit enter again. You can see it starts to create those sections. Now, this is where we said like some of the knowledge of Liquid will come into play. So referencing the basic structure here, we can see that we still need some sections like the markup. And this is where with tab, sometimes you'll need to kind of know where to click. And you can see here, it's predicting that it's looking at the context of what I want, what we already have, and say, hey, maybe the next relevant place is going to be right below the style sheet here. So you can simply press tab. Sometimes you'll see you'll have to like kind of click around. You can press enter. You see it's now adding the CSS for the feature section and the image and the content. Then you could hit enter again. You'll see for the H2. And now it's saying, okay, you have some of the style sheet. Let's go back up to the schema. So when you see this view pop up over here, you simply press tab. It'll go to that section and you press tab again. And now it added in the image picker. Now you can go click on the end of this variable here. You could press tab again. Now it's doing it for the text. Then we can press enter again. And we're doing the presets. And this presets allows this new section to be shown up in the Shopify Customizer. And you can see how this is going to be very helpful. Now it's saying, let's see going to tab over here. And then what we need next is the markup. So you see, I pressed enter twice and it knew that we had the schema, we had some of the style sheet, but now we need the markup for what the section is actually going to look like. I hit tab again. Then I go to the end of this first div here for the image, press tab again. And you can see I'm not writing any of this line of code. I'm just simply going to where the relevant section is. and it's known exactly what to do. So sometimes you can simply click on the different sections and it'll automatically generate the code for you. So let's actually see here. We might be missing, yeah, the text. And then this will then want the text too for the feature section button. You see now it's predicting for me to go down here at the text area, add the URL. Now it's saying, okay, you need the CSS for that. So you can see how it's predicting all of this information. I'm just simply pressing tab as I go through. And let's see if we save here. Let's look at our prompts. Okay. The image does not exist. It might be this line of code here. And in this instance here, you see like how it's mentioned this image does not exist. If you're tabbing through, we can simply right click when you tab over to the problems tab, just fix with AI. And this is where the Command K feature comes up and it'll reference that documentation and fix the code for you. So without potentially knowing what needs to be done, you saw how it just instantly replaced the line of code there. So now make sure on terminal you have the Shopify theme dev running. So you can just remember to type in Shopify theme dev and you can trigger the local host URL. And this is where we'll want to open the customizer. So let's close out of this. I already have the customizer here. And now if I were to go click add a new section, let's actually see, what did I call it? File 50 feature. And let's search 50 and you see 50/50 feature. And there we go. Now we have an image, the text, the button text, and the button link. So this is just kind of like a taste of what the tab completion feature can do. And, most often we'll recommend using the chat, but you can see if you have a little bit of knowledge of the structure of Shopify, a little bit of HTML, CSS, you don't really have to write any code. In this example, the only thing I technically wrote was the comment, and then I just clicked around and it auto completed all the lines of code for us. All right. In the next video, we'll go over Cursor's composer feature, which we'll use to do more complex code generation.